Today's assignment is going to be in Delta Math. The title of the assignment is Finding the Slope on a Graph and Finding the Slope from Two Given Points. La tarea de hoy es en Delta Math, el sitio de Delta Math, y el título de la tarea es Encontrando el Slope en un gráfico y encontrando el slope de 2 puntos que le dan, o usando 2 puntos que le van a dar. Okay, so here's all the information for where to find the assignment. There's the website for Delta Math. Here's my teacher code. You should write it down or take a picture of it. And there's the title of the assignment. It's due by 6 a.m. of the next day that you have my class. Okay, aquí es donde tienen que ir, a este sitio. Aquí está el código de maestro que tienen que poner. Les recomiendo que le tienen una foto o que lo escriben. Aquí está el nombre de la tarea. Y lo tienen que entregar antes de las 6 de la mañana el próximo día que tienen mi clase. All right, so the first types of questions that you're going to get are like these, all right? They're pretty simple, but let me point out a couple things. In the directions, it's going to say that you have to draw a line representing the rise and a line representing the run of the line, and then state the slope of the line in simplest form. All right, so first of all, to find the slope, you should remember from middle school, it's the rise over the run. That's the formula. The rise is the vertical distance, like this. Let me write that. And the run is the horizontal distance, like that. Okay, so they're not just asking you to write down what the slope is, but they won't let you answer the question unless you draw, unless you plot. If you look carefully in orange, I had to put that myself, right? You got to plot 2 points, you got to plot 2 lines, one showing the rise and the other one showing the run. Okay, now on most of these, there should be more than there's more than one way to plot those 2 points, all right? You just got to pick any of the ways that are available to you. These are the 2 points that I picked. I could have also used that point with this one up here, or I could have used, this point with this one down here. They all give you the same answer in the end. Okay, so I plotted those 2 points, and now I'm going to calculate the rise and the run. So, before I do that, you always we got to determine if the slope is going to be positive or negative. If the slope is going to be positive or negative. So you always look at the line going from your left to your right. If it's going down from left to right, the slope is going to be negative. And if it's going up from left to right, the slope is going to be positive. In this example, the line is going down. If you go from left to right, the line is going down. So therefore, the slope is going to be negative. Now the rise, using the 2 points that I picked, the rise is 2. And the run is going to be 1. Okay, so therefore the rise is 2, the run is 1, and you always got to simplify your answer. So negative 2 over 1 equals negative 2. That would be my answer. That's the slope. Again, you have to draw a line representing the rise and a line representing the run. Otherwise, it doesn't let you answer the question. Let me repeat all that in Spanish, and then I'll start doing several more examples. Obviously, if you get that, you could already start doing the ones that look like this. Okay, en español, tenemos que calcular el slope. El slope es un número que representa la inclinación de una línea. Okay, y para encontrar el slope tenemos que encontrar el rise sobre el run. En inglés, el rise se refiere a la distancia vertical entre 2 puntos. Pueden escoger cualquiera 2 puntos en la línea para encontrar el slope. El rise significa la distancia vertical entre esos 2 puntos. Y el run significa la distancia horizontal entre esos 2 puntos. No importa cuál 2 puntos uno escoge en la línea, la respuesta siempre te va a dar igual. Cuando se simplifica la respuesta, siempre te da el mismo número. Por eso es que no importa cuáles son los 2 puntos que uno escoge. Estos 2 puntos yo los escogí, pero ustedes pudieran haber escogido este punto con este punto aquí o este punto con este aquí abajo, todos te dan el mismo resultado. Lo importante es que cuando escogen un punto tiene que quedar exactamente donde uno puede ver exactamente qué serían los coordinados. I forgot to say this in English. It's common sense, but just to be clear, the main thing when you choose the 2 points, you can choose whatever 2 points you want, but you got to make sure that they land exactly in the crosshairs. By the crosshairs, I mean that exactly in the middle of two lines, a vertical and a horizontal line, so that you could see exactly what their coordinates are. So when you choose a point, you got to make sure that it's somewhere where you could see exactly what their coordinates are. Not in the middle of a box, because you can't tell what the coordinates are going to be. All right. En español, siguiendo. Ok, así que en este ejemplo yo escogí estos dos puntos y el rise, que es la distancia vertical, es 2 y el run, que es la distancia horizontal, es 1. Y para determinar si la línea, si el slope va a ser positivo o negativo, se tiene que mirar la línea de izquierda a derecha. Si la línea va para abajo, como en este ejemplo, de izquierda a derecha, entonces el slope va a ser un número negativo. Si la línea va para arriba, de izquierda a derecha, el slope sería positivo. En este caso el slope es negativo 2 sobre 1 y cuando se simplifica eso te da negativo 2. Alright, so here's another example. From left to right the line is going down. Okay, de izquierda a derecha la línea va para abajo. So the slope is going to be negative. And the rise is 1. El rise es 1. And the run, it helps if you look at the numbers on the number line instead of counting those little lines. It's smarter to look at the numbers on the number line. It goes from -2 to -7. That's a distance of 5. And there's my answer. Okay, es más inteligente mirar fijarse en los números de la línea numérica en lugar de contar cada rayita. Okay, los puntos van de -2 hasta -7. Eso es una distancia de 5. Así que aquí está mi slope ya, -1 sobre 5. Alright, this one again is going down from left to right, so the slope is going to be negative. Esta va para abajo de izquierda a derecha, así que el slope es negativo. Okay, these are the 2 points that I chose. So the rise. By the way, for slope, use the letter M. So when I write the letter M, that means slope. The slope equals the rise over the run. Para el slope se usa la letra M para representar el slope. Así que cuando yo escribo esto quiere decir el slope es igual a el rise sobre el run. So the rise here, it goes from -4 to -1, so it's 3. And the run, it goes from -3 to -7, which is 4. All right, so it's going to be -3 over 4. All right, let's look at this one. Again, it's going down from left to right. I don't know why it gave me a bunch of these in a row, but it's going down from left to right, so the slope is going to be negative. Let me write the formula here. Okay, so la línea va para abajo de izquierda a derecha, así que el slope es negativo. The rise, using the 2 points that I chose, is going to be 5, and the run is going to be 4. So -5 over 4 would be my slope. All right, here the line is going up from left to right. So the slope is going to be positive. En esta la línea va para arriba de izquierda a derecha, así que el slope tiene que ser positivo. All right, so again, rise, the slope equals the rise over the run. So in this example, it may be hard to see, but the orange line is right here. La línea naranja está aquí, encima del axis de Y. All right, so the rise is 5, and the run is 2. So positive 5 over 2 would be my answer. You should be finding this very simple, I hope. All right, this one, the line is going down, so the slope is going to be negative. Alright, so el slope en este va a ser negativo porque la línea va para abajo de izquierda a derecha. The rise is 6. The run is 2. Alright, so 6 over 2, you could simplify that. Eso se puede simplificar. Notice that in the directions it says you got to write it in simplest form. If you don't write it in simplest form, you're going to get it wrong. You always got to simplify. En las direcciones dice que se tiene que escribir en forma simplificada. Así que si no lo simplifican, lo van a coger mal. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, and that's my answer. Negativo 6 dividido por 2 es negativo 3, y eso es la respuesta simplificada. Alright, so this one again, the slope is going down, so it's going to be negative. Okay, el slope va a ser negativo porque la línea va para abajo de izquierda a derecha. The rise is 4. Again, if you look at the numbers on the number line, I think it's quicker that way rather than counting the little lines. Okay, es más rápido mirar las líneas, los números en la línea numérica en lugar de contar las rayitas, que uno se puede confundir, en mi opinión. Alright, so the rise is 4 and the run is 3. So negative 4 over 3. Again, here the line is going up, so the slope is going to be positive. La línea va para arriba, de izquierda a derecha, así que el slope va a ser positivo. The rise goes from negative 2 to negative 8. That's a distance of 6. El rise va desde el negativo 2 hasta el negativo 8, que sería una distancia de 6. And the run is from 0 to 4. Alright, so positive 6 over 4. I got to simplify that. And if you know your timetables, you could see that you could divide the top and the bottom by 2 to make it smaller. So the simplified answer is 3 over 2. Okay, me dio 6 sobre 4, pero uno si saben la tabla de multiplicación, deben ver que arriba y abajo se puede dividir por 2 para simplificar esa fracción. Si no se dan cuenta de eso es porque no tienen la tabla de multiplicación memorizado, y eso es súper importante. Sin eso, si no lo tienen memorizado, siempre van a tener problemas con matemática, por esa razón. Okay, we're almost done with these, and then I'll have examples like the second half. I think I put probably too many of these, but whatever, just in case, just to make sure everybody's got it. All right, so here again, the line is going down from left to right. So the slope is going to be negative. El slope en esta va a ser negativo. All right, so the rise is 2 because it goes from negative 2 to negative 4. And the run goes from 0 to negative 5, so that's 5. All right, now here's the second type of problem that you're going to get where you have to use the slope formula. You gotta find out what is the slope, but now they're giving you 2 points that are on the line. Whenever they give you 2 points that are on the line, you gotta use the slope formula to calculate what the slope is gonna be. This is actually easy. Once you get the hang of it, you could actually, if you're good at adding and subtracting, you could do a lot of these mental math. All right, so first step you gotta do is label them x1, y1, and x2, y2. All right, that's the first thing you got to do. Though the x1 has to be with the y1, and the x2 has to be with the y2. If you put I could have also made this one x2 y2 and this one x1 y1, and you get the same answer. But the x1 has to be with the y1, and the x2 has to be with the y2. I can't put x1 and y2, or because that'll mess everything up. Another mistake that students make is they'll put x1 x2 and y1, y2. No. Look at how I wrote it. Make sure not to mess that up, because if you mess that up, the whole thing's going to be wrong. All right? Cuando le dan 2 puntos, los coordinados de 2 puntos que están en la línea, tienen que usar esta fórmula para encontrar el slope. ¿Ok? Lo primero que tengo que hacer ahora es designar este par de coordinados x1, y1 y el otro par x2, y2. También puedo escribir que este par es x2, y2 y este par x1, y1 y me da la misma respuesta. Pero lo que sí tiene que ser siempre es que el x1 esté con la y1 y el x2 con la y2. Un error que hacen estudiantes es que escriben x1, y2. Eso está mal. O la otra cosa que hacen es que escriben x1, x2, y1, y2. Eso está mal. Fíjense bien como yo lo escribí, porque si no lo escriben de esa manera, lo van a coger mal. Okay, once you label them correctly, all you gotta do is substitute. A la vez que le ponen cuál es x1, y1 y x2, y2, lo que le falta es substituir. Alright, so when I substitute, in this one, it's going to be negative 13 minus negative 10 on the top. Notice how I wrote that. If you don't put two minus signs, you're going to get it wrong. Fíjense cómo escribí esto. Si no ponen los dos signos negativos, lo van a coger mal. Alright? And on the bottom, x2 minus x1, which will be 3 minus 6. The formula says whatever y2 is minus whatever y1 is. So y2 is negative 13 minus whatever y1 is. y1 is negative 10. So it's negative 13 minus negative 10. Okay, la fórmula dice y2 menos lo que sea y1. Así que y2 es negativo 13 menos y1 es negativo 10. Así que tengo que escribir negativo 13 menos negativo 10. Tienen que escribir los dos signos negativos, si no lo van a coger mal. Alright, so when you simplify that, the two negatives become a positive. Los dos negativos se cambian a un positivo. So negative 13 plus 10 is negative 3. And 3 minus 6 is negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. And there's my answer. Alright, next example. Alright, so x1, y1. X1, y1, and x2, y2. And now I'm going to substitute. All right, so when I substitute, look, I'm going to give you a trick, right? Not a trick, but something that I want you to realize. On the top, it's going to be 5 minus 5. On the bottom, it's going to be negative 1 minus 3. Okay, first of all, I have no idea why, but when I was doing this Delta Math assignment to get these pictures, to have examples to do for you guys from the assignment, it gave me a ton of problems where the top gives you 0. I don't know why, because that's kind of dumb. Not dumb to give you a problem that gives you 0 on the top, but dumb to give me so many. Like, those are actually too easy. As I'll show you right now, it's going to be too easy. And it gave me a bunch of these. And I just remembered that I forgot to delete them from the PowerPoint, so whatever. I'm just going to do them. Whatever I put in the PowerPoint, I'm going to do. Anyways, the reason I say it's too easy is because of this. Any number divided into 0, the answer is always going to be 0. Let me say that better. 0 divided by any number equals 0. Because this number does not fit into 0. Alright, so I mentioned earlier that you could do a lot of these quick. Alright, so look, if I look at this, once you do a couple of them, you're going to realize it's always, if you're labeling them in the same order that I'm labeling them, which is what I recommend. I put the first one, x1, y1, and the second one, x2, y2. Call me crazy, but I think that makes sense. To keep it in the order, the 1 first and then the 2 second. All right? I say that because students tend to do things that make no sense, man. So I'm just telling you, do things in a way that makes sense, and that's the last thing to remember. If this pair comes first, I'm going to label them x1, y1, and I'm going to label the second one x2, y2, because I think that's easier to remember. Okay, now look. Once you get the hang of it, you're going to see that it's always like this one minus this one on the top. The y minus the y on the top. The second y minus the first y on the top. So I could just look at them right away and see, oh, they're both the same number. 5 minus 5 is 0. And as long as you don't have a 0 on the bottom, the answer is going to be 0. All right? Which I'll talk about the 0 on the bottom later on because I have an example with it. All right? But if the top gives you 0... and the bottom is a number, the answer is going to be 0. So you could do these really quick. Let me just say that in Spanish. Okay? Si están poniendo los... no puedo pensar de la palabra ahora, pero si están escribiendo x1, y1 en la orden que yo lo estoy escribiendo, al primer coordinado y el segundo coordinado x2, x2, y2, que es lo que recomiendo. ¿Ok? Entonces se van a dar cuenta que se pueden hacer mucho de esto rápido en la mente si saben sumar y restar bien. ¿Ok? Porque siempre la segunda y menos la primera y para el número de arriba. Y el segundo x menos el segundo, déjame decir eso mejor, el segundo x menos el primer x abajo. Ok, así que arriba se puede ver que va a ser 5 menos 5. 5 menos 5 te da un 0 para el numerador, el número de arriba. Ok, si cualquier 0 dividido por cualquier número siempre te da 0. Y no sé por qué en esta tarea, en Delta Math, me puso una pila de problemas donde te da un 0 arriba. Y eso se puede hacer bien rápido. 0 dividido por cualquier número que no sea 0. 0 dividido por cualquier número que no sea 0 siempre te da 0. Alright. So look at this one. Again, if you get the hang of it, try to do it mental math. You'll learn it that much better. Alright, so x1, y1, x2, y2. Mental math will be on the top 8 minus 7, on the bottom 5 minus 4. ¿Ok? Si lo hacen en la mente, que este es fácil para hacer en la mente, arriba sería 8 menos 7, abajo sería 5 menos 4. Alright, so on the top, 8 minus 7, on the bottom, 5 minus 4. That's easy. 1 over 1. Look how simple that was. You could have done that mental math easy. Alright, next one. Alright. Again, this is one where you could do it mental math using what I just told you a second ago. Alright, so if I label this x1, y1, and this one x2, y2. On the top, you're going to have negative 5 minus negative 5. Just keeping it on the top. That's going to become negative 5 plus 5. Because when the numbers are the same, when you subtract them, you're going to get 0 when the numbers are the same and you subtract, you're going to get 0. All right, so I'm trying to show you that the top number was going to be negative 5. They're both negative 5. So when you subtract them, these two negatives become a positive, and negative 5 plus 5 is 0. So just from seeing that they're both the same and you're going to subtract them, you should realize, oh, the answer is going to be 0 on the top. Okay? Arriba, los dos números son igual. Negativo, bueno, déjame decir eso mejor. Los dos números para Y son igual, negativo 5 y negativo 5. Así que arriba, negativo 5 menos negativo 5, los dos negativos se cambian a positivo. Negativo 5 más 5 te da 0. Abajo, on the bottom, 18 minus negative 2. That's going to become 18 plus 2, which is 20. But 0 divided by any number, I already said, will always give you 0. Okay? 0 dividido por cualquier número siempre te da 0. Alright, next one. Alright, so x1, y1, x2, y2. Alright, so on the top it's going to be 1 minus 5. You could do that mental math. On the bottom it's going to be 21 minus 9. Alright, so 1 minus 5 is negative 4. 21 minus 9 is 12. And now this I got to simplify it. Esto se tiene que simplificar. Let me change my color here. I could divide, if you know your timetables, you could divide the top and the bottom by 4. That would be the quickest way to get the simplified answer. Okay, dividir arriba y abajo por 4 sería la manera más rápida de coger la respuesta final. Si no entienden de dónde saqué el 4, es porque no tienen la tabla de multiplicación memorizado. Por eso es que yo sé que se puede dividir por 4. Porque 4 por 1 es 4 y 4 por 3 es 12. All right, if you don't realize where I got the 4 from, that's because you don't have your timetables memorized. Because if you have them memorized, you could look at these numbers and automatically see that 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 3 is 12. So I could divide both of these numbers by 4 to get my simplified answer, which would be negative 1 over 3. All right, so here, let's label them x1, y1, x2, y2. So on the top, it's going to be 13 minus 3. On the bottom, negative 3 minus negative 3. All right, so on the top, 13 minus 3 is 10. On the bottom, that'll become negative 3 plus 3. Let me make sure I didn't make a mistake here. 3. All right, so this one, I forgot to write something actually. On this one, on the bottom, it's going to give you a 0. And, all right, I got to tell you something important. So if you're not paying attention, I need you to stop what you're doing a second and pay attention. All right, because you may not know this, or maybe you learned it and you forgot it. But whenever you divide by 0, it has a special answer. The answer is not 0. If you put 0, you're going to get it wrong. The answer is undefined. So whenever you have a fraction and the bottom is 0, the answer is undefined. Think about it this way. 0 means nothing. How can you measure how many times nothing fits inside of a number? You cannot measure that. All right? That's the way I think about it. That's the way I remember it. So whenever the 0 is at the bottom, the answer is undefined because you cannot measure how many times nothing fits into something. I promise you that's going to come up throughout the year in your Algebra 1 class as well as your intensive math class. So it's important and it's easy. So when 0 is on the bottom, the answer is always undefined because you cannot measure how many times nothing fits in a number. Okay? And by the way, on the Delta Math, it has a button that says undefined. That when you click it, it writes the word undefined in the answer box. I took a picture of it, but it must be a couple slides from now. All right? Okay, en este problema, me da un 0 en la parte de abajo de la fracción. No se puede dividir por 0. La respuesta siempre es esta palabra, undefined, que no es definido. ¿Ok? Porque uno no puede, piensen de esta manera, 0 representa nada. Uno no puede medir cuántas veces cabe nada dentro de un número. ¿Ok? Así que la respuesta siempre es esta palabra, undefined. En Delta Math, cuando tengan un problema con la respuesta así, hay un botón que le tiré una foto, en un momento se lo enseño, pero hay un botón que dice undefined que le pueden dar y le escribe esta palabra en la respuesta. Oh, there it is. I did take a picture of it. Ahí está la foto. I forgot to delete the previous slide. So for this answer, I had to press this button and it writes undefined for me. All right? Para esta respuesta le tuve que dar a este botón aquí para que me ponga esta palabra undefined. A lo mejor te lo deja poner con el keyboard. You could probably write it with the keyboard also, but all right. Moving on, we're almost done. All right. I mean, most of you I'm sure have it, but I put plenty of examples just in case anybody needs it. All right, so let me label these x1, y1 and x2, y2. So on the top, it's going to be negative 23 minus negative 3. On the bottom, it's going to be negative 18 minus negative 3. All right, so the two negatives become a positive. Los dos negativos se cambian a positivo. So on the top, you're going to get negative 20. On the bottom, you're going to get negative 15. A negative divided by a negative equals a positive. Un negativo dividido por un negativo te da un positivo. Así que la respuesta final va a ser positivo. My final answer is going to be positive. But I got to simplify this. Tengo que simplificar esto. So if you know your timetables, you should see that the biggest number you could divide the top and the bottom by is 5. Okay? To simplify this. Puedo dividir arriba y abajo por 5 para simplificar esta fracción. So, whoops, not a negative sign. Pretend that didn't happen. All right, so on the top, it's going to be positive 4 and positive 3 on the bottom. Remember, it's positive because a negative divided by a negative equals a positive. Or you know what? Maybe a better way to have written this would have been negative 4 divided by negative 3, which gives me positive 4 over 3. Okay? Cuando simplifico arriba y abajo, me da negativo 4 sobre negativo 3. Que cuando simplifico esto, porque estoy dividiendo por dos negativos, me da una respuesta positivo. Así que la respuesta final sería positivo 4 sobre 3. All right, let's do this one. All right, so I'm going to label them x1, y1. So I substitute, so it's going to be negative 4 minus negative 9 on the top, and on the bottom 22 minus negative 3. The two negatives become a positive, los dos negativos se cambian a positivo, and you're going to have 25 on the bottom and on the top positive 5. However, I still got to simplify that. Tengo que simplificar eso dividiendo arriba y abajo por 5. Divide the top and the bottom by 5. And your final answer is going to be 1 over 5. Alright guys, that concludes today's lesson. Again, if anybody needs to see it again, let me put up the Delta Math information. Alright, there's the Delta Math information. Si alguien lo necesita, aquí está la información otra vez de la tarea. You got to go to Delta Math. There's the teacher code. Either take a picture of it or write it down. Or wait till I send you the link for the video on YouTube. There's the title of the assignment, and it's due by 6 a.m. of the next day that you have my class. So 6 a.m. the next day that you have my class. Okay, aquí está el código que necesitan. Tírenle una foto o escríbenlo o esperen hasta que yo le mande el link al video en YouTube. Aquí está cómo se llama la tarea y lo tienen que entregar antes de las 6 de la mañana el próximo día que tienen mi clase. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Que tengan buen día.